Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into something really central, um, often complex, and honestly a challenge that many young people suffer through silently.
Mm.
We're talking about body image and self-confidence during adolescence.
It really is a critical point, isn't it? And when we talk about body image, it's more than just how someone looks physically.
Right.
It's that deeper emotional, psychological perception, how young people actually feel about their looks, their shape, their weight. It's the attitude they carry about their physical self.
And why this is so critical right now is really the timing. Adolescence, I mean, it's just a period of such intense, rapid physical change,
Hmm.
like a biological earthquake, almost. Everything changing at once. Growth spurts, hormones, body shape, weight.
Yeah.
And all that naturally creates this heightened self-awareness. The body suddenly becomes, well, the absolute center of how they're figuring out who they are.
It's definitely a crucible moment, like you said. You have these external changes happening, clashing with this internal pressure to, define yourself. And that's where the risk of developing what we call poor body image really becomes significant.
Explain that a bit more. Poor body image.
It's that state where students see their bodies as, well, fundamentally inadequate. They get caught up in these really fierce, unfavorable comparisons,
Comparisons against what, usually?
often against these impossibly polished societal standards, what they see online, or maybe idealized versions of their peers.
Ah, that comparison gap, the difference between their reality and this, like, perfect ideal. That's where the real damage kicks in, isn't it?
Exactly. And the immediate fallout isn't small. We see things like a sharp drop in self-confidence, sometimes leading to social withdrawal, even significant anxiety.
Yeah, the sources really highlighted that. And what struck me was that specific behavioral thing, the way they start avoiding activities that are actually good for them.
That avoidance is such a critical red flag. We're seeing students actively dodging sports, PE classes, um, basically any activity where they feel physically exposed.
Why? What's the fear?
It's the fear of judgment. They feel, unfit or too thin or too overweight to be seen exercising or just participating.
So the body image issue becomes this double whammy.
Absolutely. It's a psychological barrier, first off, but then it physically cuts them off from activities and, importantly, from the social support that could actually help improve their mood and overall well-being.
Right. So that really sets up our mission for this deep dive, doesn't it? We want to give you a shortcut to understanding this whole layered issue.
Mm-hmm.
We'll unpack the complex causes, look at the specific behaviors you might see, the signals, really.
And ground it all in the research, the psychology behind it.
Yes. And crucially, deliver detailed, actionable strategies, things that can actually create positive change, whether you're a student listening or someone working in a school or a parent.
Mm.
Okay, so to really tackle this, we need to go back to the roots. Where does this dissatisfaction actually come from? Our sources break it down into, like, 5 major areas. It shows just how pervasive this is.
Yeah, it's coming from multiple directions.
Let's start with probably the biggest one, the most unavoidable force, societal and media influences.
Right. This is the environment they're swimming in, basically. The air is just thick with these unrealistic expectations.
It's always been there to some extent, right? Magazines, ads.
True. Traditional media always pushed certain standards, but the problem now is just amplified enormously by the sheer volume, the immediacy of digital platforms.
So.
Well, the core issue is this constant, like 2047 promotion of completely unattainable, often digitally manufactured beauty and fitness standards. It's everywhere, all the time.
It feels like a totally different ballgame now. It's not just the supermodel on a distant billboard anymore.
No, it's celebrity culture cranked up to 11, and maybe even more impactful, it's the culture of the hyper-curated peer.
Oh, yeah.
Specific, really narrow body types get glorified. They become symbols of attractiveness, sure, but also success, even like moral goodness somehow.
And when you're an adolescent trying to build your identity, attaching all that value to a physical trait, it's incredibly powerful.
It is. And that leads us straight into what we call the digital comparison trap.
Okay, explain that.
Well, comparing ourselves is kind of human nature, right? But social media platforms basically automate it. They reinforce it constantly.
How?
Peers are posting these meticulously curated feeds. They're often using filters, editing tools, creating this instant, personalized, and totally fake standard.
So it's not comparing your real self to an airbrushed celebrity anymore.
Exactly. You're comparing your unfiltered real self to a filtered, curated version of your actual classmate. That feels much more direct, much more personal.
And the algorithms play a role too, don't they?
Well, oh, absolutely. If a student starts clicking on content about dieting or fitness transformations or whatever, the algorithm learns.
And shows them more of it?
Precisely. It feeds that insecurity. It shows them more and more idealized content, basically heightening their sense of inadequacy and trapping them in this loop of constant comparison.
Wow. It really creates this echo chamber of feeling not good enough visually.
That's a great way to put it. A self-reinforcing echo chamber. It leads to this relentless insecurity that, frankly, previous generations just didn't face with this kind of intensity.
Okay, so that's the huge external pressure. Let's shift focus now and look inward. The psychological factors, how these external messages get internalized and sort of weaponized against the self.
Yeah, the internal landscape. Often this conversation has to start with self-esteem.
How are they linked?
Low self-esteem and body dissatisfaction are almost always intertwined. It often shows up as excessive, really harsh self-criticism.
So if a student already feels shaky about their worth,
Their body becomes the easiest, most visible target for their own negative judgments. It's right there, something tangible to focus the negativity on.
and we often see this tied up with perfectionism, right?
Yes, definitely. Perfectionism fuels this constant, draining need for external validation.
Like needing likes, comments, approval.
Exactly. They feel they have to look a certain way to be acceptable, to be liked, so they seek that approval constantly through comments online, compliments in person, whatever form it takes.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It's a huge energy sink. And the thing is that external affirmation, it's always temporary. It never fully fixes the underlying feeling of imperfection.
So it just leads to more dissatisfaction.
Right. And then a frantic search for the next validation hit. It becomes this really exhausting cycle.
We also can't ignore the impact of internalizing negative comments, can we? Those sharp remarks people make.
Absolutely not. Those comments, whether they're meant casually or cruelly, maybe from peers, maybe family, maybe even strangers online, they can stick.
And the damage comes when they're internalized.
Yes. The long-term damage happens when students take those external comments, which might have been thoughtless or just mean, and absorb them into their core sense of self.
So they become negative self-beliefs.
Precisely. They become these permanent judgments that dictate feelings and behavior for years. If someone's repeatedly told they're too skinny or too chunky, that phrase can become their internal soundtrack, driving choices long after the person who said it forgot all about it.
Okay, moving from the internal to the immediate environment, let's talk about social and school environment factors, the direct pressures they face daily.
Yeah, the day-to-day stuff, obviously overt body shaming or teasing from classmates is incredibly damaging.
Driven by peer pressure.
Often, yeah, pressure to conform. Schools are intense little micro-societies, right? Any perceived difference from the dominant look, weight, height, clothes can be flagged, ridiculed, punished socially.
But the sources also mention more subtle things, structural details within the school itself. Tell me about structural discomfort.
This is often overlooked, but so important. We're talking about things like mandatory school uniform sizes that might not fit comfortably or flatteringly on all body types.
Or sports kits.
Exactly. Specific sports attire that can feel really revealing or maybe just doesn't accommodate a diverse range of shapes well.
And having to wear that in front of others.
Can cause intense embarrassment. Imagine having to change in a communal locker room or participate in PE class wearing something that highlights what you perceive as your biggest flaw.
That fear of exposure.
It contributes hugely to negative self-image. It leads to kids skipping PE, changing in bathroom stalls, just trying to hide.
It forces vulnerability right when they feel most self-conscious. Okay, that brings us to the next layer, family and cultural factors. The home environment.
Hugely important. The dialogue within the family is paramount. If family conversations consistently focus too much on appearance,
Even subtle comments.
even subtle ones, critiques about a relative's weight, maybe persistent comments about what a child should or shouldn't eat, it sends a clear message.
What message is that?
It teaches the child, implicitly or explicitly, that physical appearance is a primary measure, maybe even the primary measure of their value and acceptance within the family.
And this includes comparing kids at home.
Yes, absolutely. Parental comparisons between siblings or even with cousins or other relatives, why can't you be slim like your sister? Or comparing an athletic build to academic skills. It creates this dangerous hierarchy based on looks.
Implying acceptance is conditional.
Right, conditional on looking a certain way. And then zooming out, broader cultural values play a role too, obviously. Cultures that strongly associate a person's worth with their looks over their character or abilities add another layer of pressure.
Okay, final category of causes, lifestyle and health habits. This often becomes a vicious cycle, doesn't it?
It really does. It can lock in that negative body image.
Oh,
For instance, chasing those idealized images often leads to poor dieting habits or worse, excessive restrictive dieting.
which rarely works long term.
Exactly. These extreme measures, skipping meals, cutting out whole food groups, severe calorie restriction, they're usually unsustainable. They often lead to failure, which leads to more dissatisfaction with their body, and then back to self-criticism. It fuels the fire.
And then there's the flip side, avoiding physical activity.
Right. They avoid exercise because they feel bad about their body. But then the lack of activity can reduce muscle tone, lower energy levels, create a sense of physical sluggishness.
Which reinforces the negative
And
feeling.
it's a perfect self-fulfilling prophecy of feeling bad physically. They feel bad, so they don't move. Because they don't move, their physical state might decline slightly, which makes them feel worse about their body, leading to more avoidance.
Breaking that cycle seems key.
It really is. It requires shifting the motivation entirely, which we'll get to later.
And we also need to consider those invisible stressors, lack of sleep, chronic stress.
Definitely. Both can significantly impact appearance, right? Skin issues, dark circles, looking tired.
But it's more than just appearance.
Much more. They severely impact mood, resilience, cognitive function. A stressed or sleep-deprived teen is just inherently less equipped to handle external criticism rationally. They're far more likely to internalize negativity and engage in negative self-assessment.
You just don't have the emotional bandwidth to fight back against that inner critic.
Exactly. The reserves are low.
Okay, so we've mapped out the complex roots: media, psychology, school, family, lifestyle. It's a lot. Now, the crucial next step is spotting the signs. How does this internal struggle actually show up on the outside? What are the signals parents, teachers, or even friends should look out for?
Well, one of the first observable signs is often intense self-monitoring. And I don't mean just a quick glance in the mirror.
What does it look like then?
It looks like frequent, sometimes almost obsessive self-criticism when they see themselves. In mirrors, sure, but also in photos, shop windows, any reflective surface. The camera especially becomes a tool for judgment.
And perhaps the most concerning symptom cluster is avoidance behaviors, actually pulling back from life.
Yes, these are really tangible retreats. Specific examples are key here. Think about actively avoiding social events that involve physical exposure, pool parties, beach trips, dances maybe.
Even school events.
Could be. Or avoiding communal changing rooms, pulling out of team sports they used to do, specifically rejecting activities if they involve clothes they feel are unflattering or revealing.
They're trying to make their perceived flaws invisible.
Essentially, yes. Trying to physically remove themselves from situations where they might be seen and judged.
And alongside that avoidance, there's often this intense focus on specific body parts.
Right. Excessive concern with one particular aspect that just dominates their thinking. It could be weight, muscle definition, or lack thereof, skin issues, facial features. This fixation just consumes so much mental energy.
And the modern sign, digital modification.
Well, yes, the very contemporary indicator, the constant, almost compulsive use of filters, editing apps, Photoshop, altering their appearance digitally before they feel okay sharing a picture online.
What does that tell us?
It signals a profound discomfort or dissatisfaction with their authentic, unedited self.
Hey, what about the emotional side? What are the visible emotional signs?
The emotional state can become really volatile. You might see heightened mood swings, maybe generalized irritability that seems out of character, or sometimes deep social withdrawal. And often this is directly traceable back to how they're feeling about their body.
Pay attention to triggers, too.
Definitely. Notice if there's clear emotional distress after comparison moments, like after scrolling through Instagram or maybe after a social event where they felt compared to peers. A quick scroll can genuinely trigger significant anxiety or sadness.
This internal and external battle must impact school and social life pretty heavily.
Oh, inevitably. That declining confidence ripples outwards. When students feel fundamentally flawed physically, their belief in themselves just shrinks across the board.
How does that look in the classroom?
We see reduced participation. They might stop putting their hand up, volunteer less for things like presentations, maybe struggle in group work where they feel more visible or exposed.
It's not about their ability.
Often not at all. Their intellectual contributions feel less valuable to them because they feel their physical self is unacceptable. And socially, that distress from comparison leads to pulling back, which can sadly lead to loneliness and feeling even more isolated.
Okay, let's give this some theoretical weight. Why does this matter so much from a psychological perspective? Let's start with that Cash and Prusinski model from 2002.
Right, that model is really useful because it shows body image isn't static. It's shaped by both internal feelings, how they perceive their body, and external influences, those societal standards we talked about.
And the key linkage.
The model shows that when negative evaluations get triggered, whether from inside or outside, it leads directly to emotional distress. And that distress then drives the avoidance behaviors we just discussed. It becomes a kind of closed loop of psychological pain.
A negative feedback loop. That connects pretty well to Bandura's ideas about social comparison, doesn't it?
Exactly. Bandura's theory helps explain how adolescents evaluate themselves. A primary way is by comparing themselves to others.
And during adolescence, visual comparison is huge.
It's the most immediate, most accessible metric, especially now. With the constant feedback loop of social media, they're perpetually measuring themselves against this shifting, often unrealistic benchmark set by peers and influencers. It just fuels feelings of inadequacy.
And if we zoom out to Erik Erikson's developmental stages, this whole struggle lands right in that critical identity formation phase.
Absolutely. Erikson called adolescence the stage of identity versus role confusion. It's the time when young people are working incredibly hard to figure out, who am I?
And body image is part of that.
A central, non-negotiable part. How they perceive their physical self plays a major role in building that coherent sense of identity. If they feel their body is unacceptable or confusing, their whole sense of self can feel fragmented or damaged, potentially leading to longer-term role confusion and insecurity.
The scale of this problem is pretty sobering when you look at global stats, too.
It really is. The World Health Organization highlighted in 2021 that around 1 in 4 adolescents globally experience body dissatisfaction. This isn't just a minor blip in self-esteem for a few kids.
It's a widespread issue.
A kind of pandemic of insecurity, really, that directly contributes to significant mental health challenges like anxiety and depression worldwide.
And the National Institute of Mental Health links it to physical risk, too.
Yes, their findings strongly connect low body image with reduced physical activity, reinforcing that avoidance cycle we talked about. And critically, they also note the increased and very serious risk of developing eating disorders.
So the psychological pain can manifest physically in dangerous ways.
Absolutely. It's not contained within the mind. It poses a real threat to physical health that often requires professional help.
So when this body dissatisfaction isn't addressed, when it lingers, the effects spread out, don't they? Like ripples. We need to map out just how far-reaching this can be, starting with the deep psychological and emotional impact.
Yeah, the core loss is really profound. It's a decline in fundamental self-esteem, self-worth, and even motivation.
How does it affect motivation?
Well, if you internalize the belief that you're fundamentally unworthy because of how you look, that sense of defectiveness can just extinguish the drive you need to pursue goals, academic goals, hobbies, even building relationships. Why try if you feel inherently flawed?
And this can escalate into serious mental health issues.
Absolutely. We see a clear risk for developing chronic anxiety, persistent mood swings, and in more severe cases, clinical depression. Just living with that constant pressure of feeling judged and inadequate becomes an unbearable psychological load.
You also mentioned cognitive interference. That sounds important. How does worry about appearance drain mental energy?
Right. Think of it like their brain is constantly running this hidden background app and internal checking system. Do I look okay? Is this shirt too tight? Are people noticing my weight? Is my hair weird?
Constantly monitoring.
Constantly. And that monitoring process consumes significant cognitive resources, what psychologists call working memory.
So when they need that brain power for school,
Exactly. When they need to focus on complex tasks, solving math problems, writing an essay, even just following a complicated lecture, that mental bandwidth is already partially occupied by image anxiety. It directly impacts their ability to concentrate, remember information, and stay emotionally regulated in the classroom.
that cognitive drain must affect their social lives too, leading to that isolation cycle you mentioned.
It does. The initial withdrawal from things like sports or parties because they fear judgment. It doesn't stop there. It compounds.
How?
That isolation means they miss out on crucial opportunities to practice and develop essential interpersonal skills. Things like navigating casual conversations, handling disagreements, collaborating on a project. basic social practice.
So they become socially less skilled.
Not because they lack the capacity, but because they've avoided the practice due to anxiety. This can lead to more loneliness, reinforcing the cycle.
And emotionally, they become more fragile.
Yes, their sensitivity skyrockets. They can develop this almost heightened, painful sensitivity to any kind of criticism or even just neutral remarks about their appearance.
Like what?
A casual comment like, "Oh, you look a bit tired today," which might be meant neutrally, can be instantly processed as a harsh critique of their looks. It can trigger this immediate disproportionate wave of distress and maybe further withdrawal.
Okay, let's shift to the physical health consequences. This is where the avoidance directly impacts their bodies.
Right. Avoiding physical activity isn't neutral. It leads directly to poorer cardiovascular health over time, reduced stamina, just a general decline in physical fitness. And the disadvantages built up during adolescence can be harder to undo later.
And the stress itself affects eating.
Yes, the psychological stress from poor body image often pushes them towards risky, unhealthy eating behaviors. We see meal skipping, cycles of restriction followed by overeating, obsessive dieting, practices that disrupt healthy growth and development and can sometimes spiral into eating disorders.
And the stress finds other physical outlets too.
It definitely can. Chronic psychological stress related to body image can manifest physically, somatically, meaning the body starts expressing the distress the mind can't fully process or resolve. We see things like recurring unexplained headaches, chronic fatigue, digestive problems, things that don't have a clear medical cause but are clearly linked to underlying stress and anxiety. The mind-body connection is undeniable here.
Finally, let's look long-term. The academic and long-term effects that can follow them way past their school years. How does that low self-assurance show up academically?
It often leads to dramatically reduced participation in the classroom. They might shy away from anything that puts them in the spotlight, leading discussions, giving presentations, even asking questions sometimes.
And this impacts grades.
It can, especially in areas requiring collaboration or public speaking. Their performance might decline not because they don't understand the material, but purely because their low self-assurance, tied to how they feel about themselves physically, holds them back.
And this doesn't just magically fix itself after high school.
Unfortunately, no. Persistent, unresolved body image issues from adolescence can cast a very long shadow into adulthood.
In what ways?
It can seriously affect adult confidence, impacting career progression, promotions, and it definitely affects the ability to form healthy, secure, intimate relationships.
So the risk continues.
Yes, there's a higher propensity for ongoing issues like chronic stress, recurrent anxiety, the development or persistence of eating disorders, or other self-esteem related problems well into their 20s and beyond. It can really impact their overall quality of life and happiness for decades if left unaddressed.
Okay, we've painted a pretty stark picture of the problem and its consequences. But the good news is, our sources offer a really comprehensive roadmap for positive change. This section is all about actionable strategies, what can actually be done. Let's start with empowering the students themselves, student-centric strategies.
Right. Empowerment starts with shifting thoughts. A key practice is positive self-talk. And this isn't just about, being vaguely nice to yourself.
What is it then?
It's an active practice. It's about consciously replacing that automatic learned self-criticism, that negative inner voice, with affirmations focusing on strengths, character, effort. It takes intentional repetition to literally rewire those default negative thought pathways.
And a core part of that is reframing how they view their body, focusing on function over form.
Exactly. This is huge. Shifting the focus from how the body looks to what the body can do. Appreciating legs for walking or running, hands for creating things, brain for thinking, lungs for breathing.
So it changes the metric of success.
Precisely. It shifts the internal success metric away from aesthetic perfection towards capability, strength, and health. What does my body allow me to experience and achieve?
Given how much we talked about media, digital hygiene seems crucial.
Absolutely non-negotiable. We strongly recommend what you could call a digital detox, or at least significant digital curation.
What does that look like practically?
It means consciously limiting exposure to accounts or content that consistently trigger comparison anxiety or promote unrealistic ideals. This takes concrete actions. Maybe turning off notifications for certain apps, setting screen time limits, and actively muting or unfollowing accounts that make you feel worse about yourself.
Taking control of the visual input.
Yes. You need to curate your feed to protect your mental health.
And getting physically active again, but with a different goal.
Right. Encouraging regular physical activity, but framing it purely around strength, energy, stress relief, mental wellness, not as a tool for weight loss or changing appearance.
Focus on internal metrics.
Exactly, like running a bit faster, feeling stronger, having more energy, sleeping better. Things you feel rather than things you see in the mirror.
How can they tackle that relentless inner critic directly?
Mindful reflection is really helpful here. Journaling can be powerful. Writing down those self-critical thoughts actually helps externalize them.
So you can see them more objectively.
Yes, it makes it easier to challenge their logic, see how harsh they are. And mindfulness practices like deep breathing or simple meditation can help anchor them in the present moment, interrupting that obsessive loop of thinking about perceived flaws.
And breaking the isolation is key too. Peer support.
Hugely important. Finding safe spaces to talk, whether with trusted friends or in more formal support groups, helps normalize the experience.
Realizing you're not alone.
Exactly. When students realize others share similar fears and anxieties, it reduces shame and creates a supportive environment where they can challenge these issues together.
Okay, let's scale up. What can schools do? Systemic change through school-based strategies.
Schools have a massive role to play. They need to proactively integrate things like body positivity sessions or workshops run by counselors.
Not just one-offs.
Ideally, no. Ongoing modules that focus on health literacy, understanding natural body diversity during growth, celebrating different body types, and actively providing a counter-narrative to the toxic messages often found online.
And specifically regarding PE and sports. How can they make that space safer?
They need to promote genuinely inclusive sports programs. That means encouraging participation from everyone, regardless of body type or perceived skill level.
Now, what are the practical steps?
Things like maybe de-emphasizing competition for basic participation, focusing more on personal bests or skill development rather than winning, and definitely providing comfortable, non-restrictive uniform or attire options for all students. Make it feel safe to move.
And tackling the social environment directly. The teasing, the shaming.
Zero tolerance. Schools need clear, consistently enforced policies against body shaming, bullying, and teasing related to appearance. Students need to know it's unacceptable and there are consequences.
What about the curriculum?
Health education modules should explicitly teach balanced nutrition, realistic fitness goals that respect developmental diversity, and media literacy skills, how to critically analyze the images they see. And debunking fad diets is crucial too.
Peer mentorship could work well here too.
Definitely. Pairing older students, maybe who've navigated these issues themselves, with younger students can be incredibly effective. That peer-to-peer advice often lands differently, feels more relatable than advice from adults sometimes.
Okay, let's bring it home. Parental and home strategals. What's the playbook for parents?
It starts with the language used at home. Parents need to champion healthy dialogue. This means consciously, deliberately avoiding comments about weight, size, or appearance.
Their own appearance too.
Yes, absolutely. No negative self-talk about their own bodies, no commenting on other people's weight or looks, and definitely no critical comments about the child's appearance or eating habits.
So what should they talk about?
Focus on effort, character, kindness, interests, feelings, healthy habits. Shift the focus entirely away from the superficial.
And modeling healthy behavior is key.
Crucial. Encourage balanced nutrition by talking about food as fuel, for energy, for health not as good or bad, or something tied to guilt or shame. And parents need to model this healthy eating, enjoyable physical activity without obsession or pressure for perfection.
Shifting praise away from looks.
Yes. Celebrate effort over looks. Make a huge deal about their achievements that have nothing to do with appearance. Their hard work on a project, their kindness to a friend, their creativity, their resilience. Teach them through your praise where their real, lasting value lies.
And the final piece is modeling self-acceptance.
It's fundamental. If a child constantly hears a parent complaining about their own body or talking about being on a diet, they internalize that self-criticism is normal, even expected. Parents have to model liking and respecting themselves.
Okay, sometimes these internal struggles become too much for self-help or environmental changes alone. What about counseling and psychological interventions?
Therapy can be incredibly effective. Techniques like cognitive restructuring or CBT help students identify those automatic negative thoughts about their bodies.
Like, I look disgusting.
Exactly. And then actively challenge them, question the evidence, and learn to replace them with more balanced, realistic, and compassionate thoughts like, my body is healthy and functional, and my worth isn't tied to my weight.
And mindfulness comes in here too.
Yes, mindfulness practices, meditation, deep breathing, body scans are powerful tools for managing the immediate distress. They help reduce that obsessive rumination and anxiety by anchoring the student in the present moment, creating distance from overwhelming thoughts.
And the power of realizing others feel the same way.
Support groups are invaluable for that. They provide a safe, structured space to share experiences, realize you're not alone, which massively reduces shame, and the group provides collective support and accountability for making positive changes.
Okay, to make this really practical for you listening, we've put together a student growth toolkit, drawing directly from these strategies, things you can start using right away.
Yeah, a good starting point is a simple self-esteem check. Maybe use a 1 to 5 scale to rate how much you agree with statements like, I feel comfortable with my body today, or I avoid comparing my looks to others, or I believe my confidence comes from my character and abilities, not my appearance. Just get a baseline snapshot.
And then actively work on shifting focus with something like the Strengths over Looks journal prompt.
Right. This is about intentionally logging your strengths daily. You note the day, then a specific skill or quality you value in yourself, like resilience, humor, focus, kindness.
And then how you used it.
Exactly, how it was used today. For example, resilience used when I kept studying even though I felt overwhelmed, or kindness used when I helped a friend. Explicitly linking positive traits to actions helps solidify the belief that your worth comes from within.
We also suggest some powerful reflection questions to dig deeper.
Yeah, questions to challenge those ingrained beliefs. Ask yourself things like, what does my body actually help me achieve every single day that has nothing to do with how it looks? Or, how can I show my body gratitude instead of criticism today? Or, which specific people or social media accounts consistently make me feel insecure, and what's one boundary I can set around them this week?
And finally, the power of daily affirmations. Actively feeding your brain positive messages.
Yes, using strong, positive, present tense statements. Repeat them regularly, maybe write them down. Things like, my body is strong and capable, or my worth comes from my character, not my appearance, or I choose self-respect over comparison today. It's like building a psychological defense shield. Hashtag, tag, tag, outro.
Chapters. So this deep dive really shows, doesn't it, that adolescent body image isn't just some surface level vanity thing. It's a really deep psychological and systemic issue fed by so many complex factors, from media algorithms right down to like the fit of a school uniform. But the core takeaway, the thing we really want you to hold on to, is that a student's true worth, your true worth, it's fixed. It's defined by your attitude, your kindness, your effort, your abilities, not by some impossible shifting standard of appearance.
Absolutely. And tackling this really does take collective effort. We've seen how vital schools and parents are in creating safer environments, yes, but also in actively changing the conversation, shifting it away from how do I look towards who am I and what can I contribute.
The causes are complex, definitely, but the solutions we've discussed are tactical, they're actionable, and they're really necessary. It needs commitment from everyone involved in a young person's life.
And that leads us to our final thought for you to chew on. When we truly commit to helping adolescents cultivate genuine body positivity, to build real confidence, the kind that comes from inner acceptance, from valuing function and self-regard, we're not just fixing a body image problem.
What are we doing?
We're unlocking so much more. We're fostering emotional resilience, freeing up cognitive resources for learning, and enabling them to build authentic connections. We're basically paving the way for deeper, more holistic growth and ultimately lasting happiness. And that is the real life-altering goal behind understanding and tackling this challenge.